Namaste. Welcome to this session. We are considering Cittaparikarma Upaya, and we are taking up the sixth measure, sixth means mentioned here by Patanjali, which is Swapnanidragyana lambanam sutra, that is Swapnajnanam and Nidrajnanam. Very little mention gets to this prolific and very intriguing and very fascinating topic of Patanjali Yoga. Usually, nidra vritti and swapna vritti is considered. But here, this is Swapnajnanam and Nidrajnanam. Very little has been said about this, and the purport of this sutra has such an enormous importance in the entire yoga psychology of Patanjali, Chitta Vijnana of Patanjali. And now here it gets mentioned that these are tremendous means of Cittaparikarma, the cospicalization of Chitta, sublimation of Chitta, purification of Chitta, and culturing of Chitta. Basically, one should not confuse between Swapna vritti and Swapnajnanam, Nidra vritti and Nidrajnanam, and particularly here as it is means of Cittaparikarma. It is unique perspective which has been overlooked by the modern yoga in order to popularize the yoga. This is a sutra which has enormous purport with in relation to mysticism. Anyway, the modern educated man thinks that Swapnajnana means knowledge of dreams, experience of dreams. There is no particular mention or reference to experience of dream. Dream experience is, of course, a dream knowledge. When you have an experience, it is some kind of knowledge. And more often, the dream knowledge is considered invalid, 99.99999%. The dream knowledge, because the very dream has been equated with something that is untrue, unreal. So, this influence is not making one become inquisitive about what Patanjali is mentioning. So, here the mention when he says Swapnajnanalambanam, which is one of the aspects of this Cittaparikarma Upaya, Swapnajnanalambanam, Nidrajnanalambanam. So these are two different measures composed in one measure of Cittaparikarma. So the first one is Swapnajnanalambanam. Now this Swapnajnanam is not referring to Swapna anubhava. Swapna anubhava, experience of dream, experience in dream, nor swapna vritti, nor the mental modulation of chitta or mind in dream. Because we know we get different types of dreams, delightful to fearful to sorrowful, so many different kinds of dreams come to our minds. But here the reference is not to swapna vritti. This must be understood at the very outset. Because usually dream means dream experience. This is what modern man is thinking. Dream world is an enormous world. And now you should recall when we are dealing with the nidra vritti earlier in this text, we had this kind of portal opened out to understand the swapna vritti is not all that is fanciful and bare out of reality, etc., unreal, untrue, etc. So it would be advisable to once again go back to that delineation on nidra vritti, swapna vritti, which had come in the nidra vritti of panchataya vritti. So dreams have been trivialized. Modern man is trivializing dreams, saying that they are meaningless, substanceless, etc., etc. But anyway, what is being mentioned is not what you experience in dream and your dream experiences, or whatever knowledge would come by the experience of dream, which is anyway set aside as untrue, unreal. And it is therefore the swapna has been trivialized by modern man, not understanding that it's one of these states of human consciousness. So also about nidra. When if we are going to consider nidra, we know there is no experience in nidra, in the sense deep sleep, dreamless sleep. We think it is a blank, and we do not try to understand that there is anything like knowledge about dreamless sleep. Because there is no knowledge in dreamless sleep, we think that there is no knowledge about dreamless sleep. So we have been trivializing, looking down upon the swapna and nidra aspects, which are, as a matter of fact, the 2/3 or perhaps 1/4, 1/4 each of human consciousness. We have states of consciousness such as wakeful, then the dream state of consciousness, then the sleep state of consciousness, and then the fourth state of consciousness. So although these are states of consciousness, almost half of our mind in that sense is under these two states of consciousness, yet modern man has trivialized, because modern man thinks all realities are in a wakeful state. A wakeful state is only real, and all real is in a wakeful state. So that is stark materialism. We are not trying to understand the whole human consciousness by embracing such an idea, such a notion, such a concept. But the ancient wisdom has gone deep into this. And Patanjali has a unique perspective here. He says the knowledge about swapna and nidra can be a chitta prasadanam measure. And that is a unique stand that Patanjali has taken. And really, no commentators on yoga have really given importance to this dimension which Patanjali has highlighted in the present topic of Cittaparikarma. Modern man just wants to know how sleep comes, what happens in sleep, and then how the dream comes. And that's all. Why the dream comes and how the dream comes. And that is what the modern psychology is interested about. But basically, they have been dubbed as something very trivial. But in Shastras of Orientalists, the Adhyatma has cast enormous light on these two aspects. So, actually, Patanjali and Vyasa both presume that we have some knowledge about Swapnajnanam and nidra because a lot of it is there in Upanishads and only in Upanishads. Of course, in their times, Upanishads was some of the it was a major pursuit of jnana that people would look into Upanishads. But today people are used to looking into encyclopedias for knowledge. But at that time it was Upanishads. And therefore there is a presumption in Patanjali and Vyasa that people have some knowledge about what is being spoken about. Swapnajnanam and nidra are something of which a support can be taken. Now, when do you take support? It is in a wakeful state. So, Patanjali is expecting that we take support of some what is called as nidra jnanam and swapna jnanam, which is going to be a measure of chitta prasadanam. The chitta would be placid, clean, clear, transparent, and then the qualities that have been often shooting at you: tranquility, neutrality, virginity, sublimity, purity, piety, sanctity, sanity, equity, equanimity, equilibrium. So, this is really enormous discovery of Patanjali's, that chitta would become prasadita. When it becomes prasadita, then it would go into ekatattva abhyasa, and then it would go into dhyana and samadhi. That means it's a stepping stone to go into samadhi. It is stepping stone to go into practices of dhyana, dhyana abhyasa. So let me tell you at the outset, here nothing is spoken about the experience and knowledge that you get in dream. But this is very knowledge about dream, not in dream, not through dream, not by dream, but very dream itself. It is an enormous subject matter of knowledge which is required in spiritual pursuit. So, and it has such a kind of power that the mind would transcend from mundanity and would go on a higher plane, whereby it can leap into dhyana abhyasa and samadhi abhyasa, samadhi sadhana. So, basically, this sutra should be divided into two parts because enormous purport is there for the two aspects here. One is Swapnajnana alambanam, which is actually a sutra by itself, and nidra which is again having enormous purport whereby it can be a sutra by itself. So, that is what we are going to consider here. Now, usually the interpreters have referred, when they come to Swapna Jnanam, that means they have referred to Jnana in dream, experience in dream, and sometimes we have sublimating dreams, we have metaphysical dreams, or we have dreams which sublimate our experience, sublimate our mind, and many of them have referred to this, that in a dream, you have walked into some forest, and then there is a river flowing through there, and wonderful atmosphere, very sublime landscape there. And then you see the moon in the sky, and lotuses in the river there. And then there is a temple on the bank of the river. And then you are in that temple, you are in the sanctum sanctorum of the temple, and you are doing some worship, some aradhana. So, and while doing that aradhana, you awaken. The dream is revoked, and you come up to a wakeful state, and naturally your mind is blessed, in a blessed state, because of the dream that you had. So sometimes we have such noble dreams, sublime dreams, and that is what has been usually considered. So sometimes we have such dreams, although we can be having any kind of dream of even opposite condition, petrifying dreams, sorrow infested dreams, etc., etc. But anyway, what is called as sattvic dream, that has been only considered as having purport in this sutra. But this is very primary kind of interpretation, that you have such a dream which is ennobling your mind, and which is giving you a wake-up call. You wake up by that dream, which is very sublimating. Whereas the Upanishads tell us about very swapnavastha, the mysterious aspects of swapnavastha, and the very knowledge about the very dream, not the knowledge in dream, but very knowledge about as to what is dream. Why is there dream consciousness? What is the purport of dream consciousness? Does it, it is not proper to say that it is all meaningless to have dreamy state of consciousness. It's just a transitory phase from a wakeful state to dormant state, and dormant state to a wakeful state, that we go through a dream state of consciousness. But then it has enormous role for our very living and very life. Just as we know that sleep is very important, if you don't sleep for one day, you become restless. So we understand the dream is so important for our biological health and then psychological well-being. If you don't sleep, your biology also suffers, your body suffers, your mind suffers. It is not a comfortable condition to be not having sleep, even for a day, and not having sufficient sleep. So we think that is all the purport of sleep, that your brain will be fresh, your mind will be fresh, something needs to have a rest, and that rest is given while you are in sleep. So this is what the modern science is even thinking about, but they do not still understand that it's a world by itself. It's an enormous world by itself. The world, the dream world and the dormant world, they are enormous world. This is just an outcome, incidental thing, that your brain rests, your mind rests because of dreamless sleep for a while. You are fresh, etc., etc. And then it's good for your cellular system, metabolism, also, because otherwise metabolism is also taxed when you don't have sound sleep. And that's why we think sleep is essential, necessary for that purpose. But that is not true. Mysticism looks into it. The psychology of Upanishads, psychology of yoga, psychology of Vedanta has gone deeper into these states of consciousness. And then They have realized that it is enormous world by itself. And Patanjali assumes that we have some knowledge about it. And then, with reference to the dream experiences, the dream states, we had considered a classification of dreams. And one of such dreams, allegorical dreams, prophetic dreams, etc., one is called drishtanta. Drishtanta means it is experience that comes in dream state of consciousness or in our dreams. Now, the fact of the matter is that the jnanis, the yogis, the mystics, 99.999% of their wisdom, of their transcendent experiences compared to we people, ours are mundane experiences and they have higher experiences. 99% or even more of it is because of the dream state of consciousness. The dream is enormous fount hole of mysterious knowledge, essential knowledge, faultless knowledge, philosophical knowledge, religious experiences. That is why it is not just that you get the dreams because what is in your mind. Usually that is one of the classes of the dreams, that what is lingering in the mind, what is obsession of the mind, those things come in dream. Or you have fear for something, it comes in dream. Or you have obsession for something, that comes in dream. That's one type of dream. There are several types of dreams which you have considered earlier. So those are the dreams which are really unrealistic. They are under the grips of our subconscious tendencies, subconscious dirt, and subconscious gravities. But that is one class of dream. There are so many other classes of dreams of which only the Oriental mind is aware of it. And in Adhyatma, you are told about it. So the point is that 99% of spiritual wisdom comes through drishtanta, which is a special kind of dream. And the qualifying people only get it. Saints and sages and yogis. Most of the revelations, 99% or even more, is by the dream experiences, by the dream called drishtanta. So the blessedness that these mystics have, or the yogis have, the jnanis have, the bhaktas have, it is because of what they get the wisdom from drishtanta swapna. So this has great importance in mysticism. The class of dreams which is called drishtanta. And therefore this has been stressed in Adhyatmic texts, that is what is being mentioned. Of course, when the mind is on a transcendent plane, it will be sublimated, and that is the purport of this sutra. The drishtanta aspect of swapna, which is unique aspect of swapna, which is only a kind of thing that the yogis get, the mystics get, the jnanis get, the bhaktas get, the devotees get. And of course, which gives a boost for their chitta to leap on a very higher plane and settle down on a higher plane. So, great amount of exploration has taken about the dream and dream experience, the dream state of consciousness, and the dream vritti. So, of course, the dream gets a mention here. There is no doubt about it, which is swapna vritti, swapnavastha. So, Bhoja, in his commentary, gives the definition of it. Pratyastamita bahyendriya vrutte mano matrena iva yatra bhoktrutvam atmanah saswapnaha. Pratyastamita bahyendriya vrutte. When all the activities of these senses and all the five cognitive senses have been set aside, and then by only mind, where there is the bhoktrutvam, the experience, the mind only gets experience, that is swapna. Otherwise, our experiences are with the senses, sensory gates. Our cognitive organs are gates for us to have some experience. But when they are dysfunctional, in a state of sleep, and yet you get some experience, that is exclusively of the mind, and that is swapna. Then there is another commentary called Yoga Manjari Karika. There also, Bahya Sakala Vritti Parityagena Chetaso Abhyantara Vahita Swapnaha. Bahya Sakala Vritti Parityagena. So, all the Bahya Vrittis of our senses and the mind are given up. The Chitta is in Abhyantara realm, internal realm, and there it gets some experience. That is Swapna. Then I recall the Sarvasara Upanishad, which is a marvelous Upanishad that every student of yoga should look in. Sarvasara Upanishad itself means Upanishad of all essence. All essence of Upanishads are condensed in this Upanishad. Therefore, it's called Sarvasara Upanishad. So it says, Mana Adi Chaturashakaranahi Pushkalair Aditya Dhanugrahi Taihi Shabdadini Vishayan Sthulani Yad Upalabade Tadatmano Jagaranam Tadvasana Rahitaha Chaturbhihi Karane Shabdadi Abhave Api Vasanamayan Shabdadin Na Upalabade Tadatmanha Swapnam. So, Swapna means, say, our awakeful experience and dream experience are absolutely identical. There is no difference between the dream experience and awakeful state experience. But the awakeful state experience means all the 14 organs are operative, and then we get experience. And then we get experience of Shabdadi Vishayas, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. But when all that is experienced in the internal realm, in just Vasana Kosha, it is just a psyche where we have the experience, where you do not get Shabdadi Vishayas, you don't get these objects internally. And that is Swapnam. When physical realities are not there, it is Swapnam. When the experiences with physical realities around, then that is Jagruta Avastha. The experiences will not be different. You will also experience rivers, mountains, birds, animals, creatures, people. You experience them in a wakeful state when they are physically there. In dream, you get their experience when they are physically not there. So that's how Shastras have described, Upanishads have described. Anyway, we are trying to understand how it is going to work as a means of Cittaparikarma. Why Patanjali mentions here Swapnajnanalambanam? That means it is knowledge about Swapna, not knowledge of Swapna, knowledge in Swapna, knowledge through Swapna, but knowledge about. Now, this is something that is only available in Upanishads. So, before going to do that, I several times said there are several types and classes of dreams. So, let me just list those out for you for your information. There's something called as prophetic dreams. Prophetic dreams means they have something to signal about the future that you are going to face, premonitions. So, prophetic dreams. Then there are allegorical dreams. You need to interpret these dreams. Then there are mesmeric dreams. These are induced by hypnotists. These are induced by people outside us. The outsiders influence our mind and they give us mesmeric dreams. You know about mesmerism. So we have this influence of such people and they give us some dream experiences. So there are mesmeric dreams which are used by the psychologists, the mantrikas, they can induce it. Then retrospective dreams are there. They are about our past. The past experiences are again reviewed as if that's a present experience. So those are called retrospective experiences. It is not recollection, it is not memory. Whatever happened 5 years back, 10 years back, 25 years back, it is replayed. And you think that it is live experience. It's a live experience. So those are called retrospective dreams. Then there are dreams about other things that the experience is not important, but you experience a lion and elephant and etc., birds, etc. It may not be a part of your experiences, but these are external objects about which you have dreams. Then there are certain dreams which are mixed dreams. That means they are sarthaka as well as nirarthaka. They are meaningful as well as meaningless. So there is something aspect of reality and something aspect of unreality. So sarthaka and nirarthaka, it's a combination of the two. So they are called mixed kind of dreams. And the last one, the seventh one, is called weird dreams. This is because of physical unwell-being and mental unwell-being. So if you are unwell, you will be getting these dreams, weird and strange dreams, like vata prakopa, pitta prakopa, kapha prakopa. So with the vata, pitta, kapha in body and mind, you will be getting weird dreams. So also obsession, hallucinations, so or some mental weakness, mental diseases, mental disorders will also give weird dreams, which are meaningless dreams. So these are the kinds of dreams. Now, as I said, Patanjali is speaking about the Swapnajnanam. Now, Swapnajnanam, it should be understood here that you will not be having dream unless you are in sleep. You must first get sleep, and from sleep you will be generating dream. Not having slept at all, absolutely not at all slept, you will not be able to get dream. It would be imagination, etc. So dream needs nidra vritti. That's why if you recall, the definition of nidra vritti was a roundabout definition to circumscribe the dream, because of the fact that unless you have gone to state of sleep, you can't get the dream experience. Not having gone to sleep state of consciousness, you can't be getting dreams. And therefore, this very state of sleep, it's a enormous mystery. Therefore, we must have nidra jnanam as to what is nidra. In philosophy, in mysticism, in adhyatma, what is really sleep. Because this swapnavastha is a part of sushupti avastha. Therefore, we must understand that mysterious aspect about sleep. And since sleep is mysterious, the part of it which is swapna is also having that component of mystery in it. And therefore swapnajnanam. So knowledge about the dream itself, not knowledge in dream, but knowledge about the dream itself will tell you that it is a part of your sleep state of consciousness. Unless you are engulfed by sleep state of consciousness, you cannot get the dream experience or dream state, nidra avastha or swapna avastha or swapna vritti and swapna jnanam. But here the swapna jnanam has a specific meaning, not the knowledge of dream, but knowledge about the dream, as to how the dream comes. So first aspect here is that the dream is out of sleep. The dream is part of sleep. Now, the state of sleep itself is a mysterious thing. How? The Upanishads have described. Your modern psychology will not describe. Upanishads will describe that in state of sleep, the finite soul goes in embrace of infinite Paramatma divinity. They have a dating. You should recall when we are dealing with nidra vritti, and therein we dealt with the sushupti. In sushupti, the finite soul and infinite soul, rather the atma, finite atma and infinite atma, jivatma and paramatma, individual self and universal self, there is a dating, and the finite goes in embrace of infinite, like a beloved and beloved in an embrace. So the Sarvagnya Atma, we have seen the Ishvara Tattvam. So such Ishvara Tattva, which is omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient, omnicause, omnicausal. So it is such a marvelous entity which we have described and discussed while dealing with Ishvara. The finite Atma, Jivatma, goes in embrace of it. So we know what is finite Atma, Agnya. And what is infinite Atma? Gnya, Sarvagnya. So it is an enormous opportunity for this finite Atma to go in embrace with infinite Atma. And therefore there would be that touchstone effect. The sublimity will be of infinitude. Purity, piety, sanctity of infinitude. So, we mortals are able to get embrace with that divinity which is Sarvagnya, Sarvavit, Sarvashakta, Sarvakama. We are able to get dating with it. Now, there is no fortune which is greater than this fortune. Therefore, the mind is sublime to brim, contented to brim, accomplished to brim, absolutely purified, with no taints, no dents, no indentations, no kind of dirt whatsoever. So we are in that pure, pristine state. So it's not just the rest that we get in sleep. We are having a dating with our beloved, the Almighty. So as it is such a sublime state which Upanishads have described. And we have seen that in Swapnanidra Vritti while dealing with. So I won't repeat the passage from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. That it's a great experience, out of the world experience, the most transcendent experience. So for a yogi, this knowledge that this is what the nidra is, that it is not just going to sleep and putting the voluntary system to sleep and give them a rest, but it is much more than that. And then swapna is an offshoot of it. The dream is an offshoot of it. Keeping aside the dream experience, which might be tormenting, because many times the dream experience torments us. So setting aside the dream experience, the dream as it is, as such, is an offshoot of this great sushupti, which gives us transcendent state. We transcend to above worldly and mundane plane, where, like when there is a blazing sun in the sky, all the stars are still in their place, but no star is visible because of the effulgence of the sun. Similarly, with this divinity, when we go into embrace of divinity, we forget everything and nothing touches us. No thing that keeps us finite, limited, touches us. So we also become infinite. Like when the river reaches ocean, the river becomes ocean. So when we are in embrace of divinity, we also become divinized, and we cease to be paltry, finite, limited, impotent selves. And that is why, that is the basis on which the chitta becomes prasadita. So basically we need to know through the Upanishads what is it. But then when a yogi knows the Upanishads, she knows it with a deeper purport. That you and me also can maybe read Gita and know what is Gita, Bhagavad Gita. So we will be reading the 700 verses and we will know what is the matter of Bhagavad Gita, subject matter of Bhagavad Gita, what does it convey, what does it say, what has it to say, etc. But same Bhagavad Gita, when read, the same 700 verses matter a lot different to someone like Jnaneshwar. They matter a greatly different thing for someone who is Jnaneshwar, who is Yagnevalkya, who are Shankara Ramanujadi Acharyas, for them, the Gita is noblest of all scriptures because they are able to dive into it. So the more we are getting deeper into Adhyatma and Paramartha, the same 700 verses of Gita will mean a lot different and a lot in quantum as well. So for a yogi who is on a higher state of consciousness, the same Gita means differently. What is Bhagavad Gita to you and me? The same Bhagavad Gita, what is it for someone who is of the caliber of Arbindu, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharshi, Jnaneshwars, Tukarams, Ramdasas? So the Bhagavad Gita is not changing between what it is for you and me and what it is for them. The same Bhagavad Gita means a lot different for them. That will take them into ecstasy or ecstasy. Whereas for us, Bhagavad Gita will only give some knowledge and some information. So, Swapnajnanam, nidra jnanam, which comes in Upanishads, means a lot for acharyas, the saints, the sages, the seers, the yogis, the jnanis, the bhaktas. And then they will know what they are when they are fragment of the divinity. Mamaivangsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha, Bhagavad Gita. So he tells us that you, the jivas, finite souls, are my particles. Finite beings are my particles. Mamaivangshaha. So, if we are part and he is the whole, we are part of that whole. The yogi, the jnani, would be in an ocean of sublimity, ocean of purity, piety, sanctity. So, we need to look into purport of Upanishads, understand them at a deeper and deeper and deeper planes. By heightening our level of consciousness, then they will become really means of chitta prasadanam. Even just satsanga that we are getting, through the satsanga our mind is elevated. Now here it is Bhagavat Sangha in nidra. Now what is superior to Bhagavat Sangha? We know how satsanga is lofty, how satsanga is noble, how it has a touchstone effect. So the nidra jnanam and swapna jnanam tells us that it is Bhagavat Sangha. It is Sangha with very divinity. And therefore, the means for chitta prasadanam to yogis to such an extent that they straight away go into samadhi. For you and me, when we have satsanga, we are only free from shadripus. We are free from the shackles of mundanity. And that lifts us so much. That lifts us so much. So, our chitta prasadam will be to the extent that we will be having a state of mind which is pure because the shadripus are not touching it. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya or Vasana, etc., Kleshas, etc., they don't touch us. And that's why we get that elated state. So for us also we get that chitta prasadanam which commensurates with our qualifications. For a yogi of high order, it commensurates with his qualification and he straightway leaps into Samadhi Bhumi. And that is why this has been mentioned as means of Chitta Prasadanam. The Swapnajnanam, nidra jnanam. Basically, what is Swapna? Not what is in Swapna. What is by Swapna? No. What is really Swapna? And then what is really Nidra? Not the experience of Nidra, where you say it is a blank, it's a void. So, it's a marvelous word. If you recall, I had quoted Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which mentioned about Swapna. न तत्रथा न रथयोगा न पंथानो भवन्त्यथ रथान रथयोगात् पथा सृजते न तत्र आनंदा मुदः प्रमोदः भवन्त्यथा आनंदान मुदः प्रमोदः सृजते न तत्र वेशान्ताः पुष्करिण्याः स्रवन्तो भवन्त्यथ वेशान्तान पुष्करिणी स्रवति सृजते सही करता. It is all God's creation. We know this is also God's creation. We say that nature is all God's creation. But understand this God's creation, where there are no chariots, yet there are chariots. There are no roads, yet there are roads. Who lays those roads on which you move in dream state? Those are not concrete roads, those are not asphalt concrete roads. But then who creates those roads? He creates the roads. These roads that you have, on which you walk and on which you travel, are created by Public Works Department. They lay the roads. But who lays the roads in your dreams? Who gives you chariots and vehicles in dreams? He provides everything. Who gives you ananda, moda, pramoda? So it is all generated by divinity. And of course, it is Bhagavadiya Srushti. It is really the God's creation. Of course, this is also what is around you is God's creation. But then try to understand what's the difference between this God's creation and that God's creation. In Vedanta, you get Sandhyadikaranam, which marvelously explains the Vedantic purport of Swapna, Swapnajnanam. And that is why that knowledge about dreams, that means Upanishadic purport, Upanishadic knowledge is the sublimator, which tells you about the state of sleep and state of dream, and the very knowledge about what is the state of sleep and what is the state of dream. And that is really mind sublimating. So, another quotation I recall from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in 4.3.22. Atra pita apita bhavati mata amata loko aloka deva adeva veda avedaha atrasteno asteno bhavati bhrunaha abhrunaha chandalo achandalaha paulkasa apaulkasa shramano ashramanaha tapaso atapasaha anvangatam punyena anvangatam papena tirno hi tada sarvan shlokan hridayasya bhavati. See, it is marvelous thing which totally eclipses all your delimitations of life, that you are somebody's father, somebody's son, somebody's mother, somebody's daughter, somebody's wife, somebody's husband. that you are rich, that you are poor, you are wise, you are stupid. All these things are totally eclipsed. It's enormous condition. And it is all under His grace. It is all His bounty and endowment. So, that is why the Swapnajnanam and Nidrajnanam have been mentioned. And if you want to know this, there is no other means but Agama Pramanyam. You can't say, I am going to keep awake to know what is my sleep. How does the sleep come? What is really sleep? I am going to keep awake and try to know the sleep. Ridiculous. So also you can't say, I am going to keep awake and know what is this dream which comes to my mind every other day. I get some dreams. So I want to just know what is this dream. I am going to keep awake and try to know what is this dream, from where does it come, how does it come, why does it come. I am going to have an inquiry set up against the dream. Hey, why do you come? How do you come? No, this is not possible. So only resource or only source is Agama, is Shastra. The Upanishads will tell you about it. And then that will tell you how we are endowed with something very, very, very spiritual. Everyone experiences the spiritual touch in state of dream and sleep. If you try to know what is dream and what is sleep, not what is your experience in dream and what is your experience in sleep, because you experience nothing in sleep, and what you experience in dream is perhaps falsified on awakening. So that's why this is the Cittaparikarma upaya. So with that, we are ending the penultimate means of Cittaparikarma. And now in the next session, we will go for the final, the last Cittaparikarma upaya, which is by the sutra Yatha Abhimata Dhyanadva. But that is for next time. So enough for time being. Namaskar all of you.